Hey, what's up, everybody? You're watching From Prison to Purpose. I am the host of the show, Jimmy McGill. I'm a returning citizen and a person in long term recovery from addiction. I am super stoked about today's guest. He is a good friend of mine, he's a truth teller. He's got a reputation for being a truth teller. So, this ought to be a really good show, you know? So, kind of like the sober version of Desperate Housewives, except the male version, and we're not desperate housewives. You know what I mean? But this is Michael Springer, man. And he's a friend of mine. He grew up with me. He's a returning citizen from incarceration. He's a person in long term recovery. And he's also a combat veteran. So thank you for your service. And Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother. I'm super stoked about it. Been waiting on this.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
awesome, isn't it? This is going to be fun, man. So let's just dive right into it. How long did you get high for?
Probably 13 and a half years.
It's a long time to spend out there in drug use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was life like when you were using?
Just miserable. Total darkness. It was chaos. It started out great at first, but by the end of it was terrible.
Yeah, we go to some crazy links trying to find a way to use and continue using. Did you ever try to stop getting high and couldn't?
I kept having these feelings. I was stuck.
Yeah.
And I was manufacturing meth. So it got to the point where I'd lost my house, lost my cars, lost everything I had. I could only stay on people's couches as long as I was cooking meth. So it made me feel like I was stuck because I had nothing, could do nothing unless I was manufacturing meth. So
when you say manufacturing, you mean you were cooking methamphetamines?
Correct. Yes.
Like Breaking Bad cooking methamphetamines?
I wouldn't say it like that, man, but I cooked just about every night, but it was just personal. I wasn't really in it for the money, man. I was just in it to get high and feed my own addiction. I was my best customer. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember that era of Arkansas meth use, right? Like when everybody was cooking dope and we all thought we were these chemists and we were running around stripping matches and peeling batteries if you were cooking anhydrous dope and making metal if you were cooking red phosphorus dope. And we couldn't sell any of it because everybody was cooking their own dope. And I mean, why did we want to cook so much dope if we couldn't even give it away?
So my deal was when I got back from Iraq, it was just a different mentality, and I kept getting burnt by these dudes on the streets, and I knew where my temper was going to end up taking me.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about me is when they stopped selling the pills on the streets, I was able to go on the airbase where that was federal law, not state law, and I could get all the pills I wanted. At that point in time, I didn't know how important key player I was in the game at that moment in time. So I had access to the actual cook. I would take the pills there, and I'd stay there from start to finish until I got my cut, and it was fresh off the grill. And once you get that taste, you can't go back buying off the street, man. So I then took it upon myself to learn how to make dope to where I didn't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember when the police put that, they started by putting a limit on how many, boxes of pills we could buy. Yep. And we were buying Wall-Ac, Wall-Fed, Sudafed.
I had literally a rotation. I would start in Bologna, and I would hit Walmart, North Little Rock, Sherwood, all that big circle, come all the way back around.
Same thing, dog. I literally, and you remember when we could buy matches in the grocery store?
Yep.
Like I would go in and buy a case of matches from each Harvest Food, right? Like it was crazy. And so when they stopped us from being able to buy pills, it didn't affect you at all.
Mm-mm.
You were still getting pills and making ephedrine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was still making that. Even when the ice came around, I was using it as a red dope cook as the ephedrine and calling it rice. So that's what I was doing with that.
So you were using
like if I didn't have enough ephedrine, I would throw the ice in it
and use it for ephedrine. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Okay, that made my stomach turn. We're gonna get away from that. Hey, but the dope wasn't the same. It's when I got clean. See, I got clean 9 years ago. February 27th will be 9 years for me. If it's God's will, I don't use between now and then. And at the end, the dope we were using was ice, and it would, you'd hit the pipe and you'd go psychotic. It just didn't make any sense. But the dope I started with was red dope, and we were cooking that, and you could do it, and automatically you'd think you were a sex star and you were going to fix a broken TV that was brand new.
Yeah.
But we weren't on those psychotic, crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We were just using and doing goofy shit. You know what I mean? And somewhere along the line, everything changed. Was that your experience?
Yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of the ice. Never was. I mean, I think that's because we started from the old school way, and that's what we tend to want to stay by. But this new generation that was on it has no idea what that old generation was like. And,
yeah. So, did you go to prison for cooking meth?
So here's the deal: they never actually caught me cooking meth. I mean, they wanted me bad. They caught me in several compromised situations, but never caught me in the act of cooking dope.
What'd they catch you doing?
The first time I got jammed up was in Cabot, and I had just dropped off a meth lab, and I had went to town. This is back when the stores at the gas station you can buy that Red Devil Light at. You know what I'm saying? That was back in the day. And I just got some Taco Bell because I ain't eaten in 4 days, and my stomach was eating my backbone. So I picked that up in a thing of lye. I had a heat lamp bulb in the trunk, and I got pulled over, and that's when they were doing all the construction in Cabot.
Yeah.
And the cop, I was following the cop. He makes the detour, pulls me over, and asks me what I made the detour for. I was like, well, I'm gone. So he got me on a criminal intent to manufacture was what I had there.
And that was just the lye and the heat lamp.
And it was a 1/4 gram. This is where they got me, 1/4 gram of ephedrine that was cooked but didn't convert. So I'm arguing like a dumb with the cops, man. I was like, but that ain't dope. That ain't dope. I know that ain't dope. You know what I'm saying? So they put the field test on it, bro. It's been through the whole process, so it still came out purple.
Yeah.
So I was like, eh. So anyway, they gave me a criminal intent to manufacture that first time. I really argued with that son of a gun for about 30 minutes.
Now, what happened with that charge?
So that charge I ended up getting probation on.
Of course, first offense.
And I was so fed up with Lone Oak County at that time, bro, that I just never wanted to go through that town again.
That's how I felt about Sherwood. I was like, if you were driving through Sherwood with dope or anything to cook dope with or stolen property, like you were a freaking idiot to me. Like I am not, because they would stop you and they'd find a paraphernalia pipe. And by the time they would put as many imaginable charges on. So here it is, you get arrested with paraphernalia and you've got 19 different charges. Like that's how Sherwood would do you.
Well, if you don't think you're going to jail in Sherwood, you sure would. You hear what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
But yeah, man. So I moved to had my probation, everything transferred to Pulaski County, and I was doing good while I was in Lone Oak County, actually. But I wanted to be in Pulaski because Pulaski had the overloaded caseloads.
Yeah, you can get away with more.
You get away way more in Pulaski. You know what I'm saying?
Biggest jail there. Biggest court system.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna slide through. If you're gonna slide, it's gonna be in Pulaski.
Right. So then I ended up getting busted with about 6 grams of metal I just made up. That's what I had left.
Now this is while you're on probation.
Yeah.
Now metal is tell the listeners what metal's for.
So metal is iodized crystals. It's used to cause a reaction with the red phosphorus to convert the ephedrine into methamphetamine. So,
right.
Key ingredient. I got busted about 6-something grams.
It's also the chemical that depends on the amount of paranoia that comes out of that batch of meth.
How much metal you put on it.
Yeah. So if you put too much metal on it, then you're liable to come out looking like Doctor Who did it what for.
Yeah, I didn't do the 1, 2, 3 props. I matched my pill powder with my meth, my ephedrine, and then I want 3 grams over with my metal. That's all I did. I didn't want that.
Chew on air biscuits for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I knew none of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got busted in Little Rock with that, and they thought they hit the payload because they thought it was heroin.
The metal.
Yeah. And
did they touch it?
Oh yeah, I argued with them for a good. I've been arguing with a lot of cops here, man. But this one I was right. That is not heroin.
This is where your reputation as a truth teller comes in. You either even arguing and telling the truth. You're wrong, cops.
I know for a fact that's not dope, man. That's ephedrine.
Yeah.
So I got busted with that, and then man, it got real crazy for a while. one of the times I got busted was, man, this dude had been working with me. He got busted. And I didn't know he got busted. But anyway, I got introduced to this guy one night. I was at my house doing a meth cook, and it exploded on me.
Mm.
And I didn't have the lid all the way on, and it blew up. And I turned my face, and everything over here looked like Two-Face. The lie and everything was on it. So I watched it. That's how I ended up meeting this guy. So anyway, we started messing around because the whole time he was playing a double agent, bro. He was working against me, working for the police the whole time. And anyway, I had a homegirl of mine who introduced us. Said, "You need to quit messing with him. You need to quit messing with him." I'm like, well, I have no bad dealings with the dude, so I'll just, keep doing what I'm doing. So I started getting real paranoid, like getting real hot around the place, man. So I would get through with my cook, man. I would go take my lab and I'd hide it out in the woods off Batesville Pike, and I just leave it out there. Well, the night before all this happened, before I got busted last time, something just told me to go move it from one spot to another spot. I should have never done. I should have just left it where it was at. Anyway, the whole North Little Rock narcotic team was out there looking for my meth lab. So I was real military minded about things like this. I would have a convoy follow me everywhere I went if I had anything on me. And I was fixing to go do a cook that night. I had a dude that worked a riverboat, brought in a bunch of pills, and we're fixing to go cook it. And I go out there to get my lab or go get a truck for dude to follow me. And I get a text message from this guy. He says, "Hey, are you missing anything?" It's like immediately my Morgan Nick alert went out for my meth lab. You know what I'm saying? That's how crazy I was then. So I'm worried about this. So I jump in my car and I'm hauling butt over to this place. I get out of the truck and go to the woods where it was at. I had it on a bunch of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I had a rusted steak knife this long stabbed through a piece of paper in this box where my meth lab was under. It says, "Hi, dickhead. Thanks for the mother print. See you soon, North Little Rock Police." And as soon as I read that, bro, I jumped back and I started looking like, what? I thought they were going to come out the woodworks on me. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, they got you.
They got me. So I'm tripping.
Yeah.
So I jump in the
they
car.
They got your lab and your prints.
Everything. Well, I wiped everything down, but anyway, they probably would have had me. So I go to the house. I'm like, "Hey, we got a Black Hawk Down. This is real stuff hitting." You know what I'm saying? So I had this trailer. I was staying in this trailer park off Redmond Road.
Yeah, of course.
And North Little Rock. And
yeah, I lived there. That's where I was. That's right where I was living when Kirk Lane and his team got me for selling the stolen DVDs to the guy that I stole them from.
The boogeyman.
Yeah, the boogeyman. And I got 7 years over that. I was living in like the second trailer on the right as soon as you pulled in.
Okay, so it's like a cat trail road?
Yeah.
Well, it was only two of us living there at the time. And one stayed up here and he was a trucker.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one of those beep-boo when somebody motion sensors coming on that road.
Yeah.
And I knew all the vehicles there. I did me another bump, which I did not need to do. And I hear a beep-boo. I see a Mustang pull up in this trailer, and he backs out, keeps on going. I thought, man, that's strange. Who the heck is that? And it beep-boo, 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 beep-boo. They all came in, and Honda Odyssey vans, and I mean, you would have never guessed in a million years any of these guys were undercover. I mean, they had mullets and overweight, and it was crazy. But they found the meth lab. Of course, I never said it was mine, and I stuck to that. And anyway, they charged me another criminal intent to manufacture.
Yeah. Now, what'd they do with that charge? What happened with that?
So I still had it. So then they sent a petition to Lonoke County to revoke my probation.
Mm-hmm.
Lonoke didn't even know I had caught any of these charges until Placer County sent a petition to revoke it. So that's when it really got out of hand. So I caught some violent charges. I had a guy I was in the military with.
Yeah.
My mom told him, he says, "Hey, he's getting high, so I need to go talk to him." And he shows up at my house one day, and he's also a cop. And I see these railroad tracks, captain ranks coming out this car, and I was like, "Oh, snap." So I'm talking to the guy. He pulls me outside. He says, "Hey, man, what are you doing in there messing with these guys?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "That guy's there's already wore a wire on you twice." I said, "What?" He says, "Listen, just get them away from you right now. Don't be hanging out with them no more." So anyway, I told everybody to leave. I didn't say nothing like he asked. But then he called me later that night, wanted to buy some more dope. And I was probably way too high. And I said, "Oh, yeah, come on over, man. Come on over." So he comes over to the house, and I pulled that yopper on him right there on the spot.
Yeah.
Him and his girl was there. And I busted him out, man. And you know what? The frame of mind I was in, just coming back from Iraq, man, I probably would have killed that dude. You know what I'm saying? That's where mind frame I was at. I had a buddy of mine I was also in Iraq with. He talked me down, talked me out of it. And I was like, man, I can't let him go now. She's just going to tell it. And sure enough, he told it. So the crazy part about that was it almost was 2 counts of kidnapping.
Because you pulled the gun on him.
Because I pulled the gun and wouldn't let him leave.
Yeah.
But the deal was the girl that he was with, she was with, didn't know that he was working for the police. And once she found out he was working for the police,
she wasn't happy about it.
She wasn't happy with it. No. She had a different story.
Yeah.
So the stories didn't corroborate. So they ended up hitting me with 2 counts of aggravated assault. So, once you caught them violent charges and those dope charges, they're hurrying up.
Gone. So how much time they send you to prison for?
So here's the deal. At Placer County, I had 16 felonies. I lived with a large habitual offender first time down. They gave me 10 years out of Placer County. Now, a lot of those charges I could have beat. I have a bunch.
Yeah.
But prosecutors pretty much like this. Hey, you can take it to trial if you want, but
that's what my tattoo says right here. Time to go to trial. Boy, Mr. Big, you see me? Time to go to trial.
Well, here's my, I don't take nothing to trial. It had something to do with meth, bro. I'm guilty. Give me the best thing smoking. I'm out of here. But there was a lot of those criminal intent to manufacture charges. They just didn't have the evidence to bust me. Yeah. But they were like, you could either plead out to all this, or we can take each one of these to trial.
I've took a lot of stuff to trial. Like I had the police testify against me one time in a car theft. I was for real innocent. Now I'm riding with this guy named Gene. He's in the stolen truck taking me to meet my dad so that I can buy a 1/4 ounce from my dad for my cousins. And I'm like, man, it's a nice truck. And he's like, yeah, I love it. And I'm like, next thing you know, the police are trying to pull us over and this dude won't stop. And I'm freaking out, bro. And I'm like, you done stole this damn truck and you didn't tell me. And I mean, he's flying down MacArthur, bro. Throwing beers out of, like that's gonna
that's gonna help him.
Yeah, like it's gonna cause him to lose the police or something. And anyway, long story short, he wrecks. Well, I don't take off running through the woods. I ain't got no dope on me. I don't have no warrants. So I start walking back toward the police. And they pull up. I'm like, hey man, I don't know nothing. I was just getting a ride. Of course, they beat me up. They do what North Little Rock police used to do back then. They don't necessarily treat people like that now that I'm clean.
Right.
But back then it was rough, and so they threatened to put the K9 in the back seat with me, opened the door, had the dog barking in my face, scaring the hell out of me, and so I go to jail and my dad comes and bonds me out. And I'm fighting this charge and I take it to bench trial. I don't take it to jury trial. And my lawyer just tore that cop's ass up. He's like, in your experience as a law enforcement, is it odd for the suspect to be walking toward the police instead of running away from him? And then he's like, and I thought I smelled marijuana in the truck. And he said, you thought? He said, in your vast experience as law, you don't know what marijuana smells like, I mean, he just tore him up, See, but I was innocent. I really was innocent. I wasn't finna take no time.
I wasn't innocent on anything I got charged with. I just could have beat them because they didn't have the evidence. But when they said, hey, we can either take the plea deal, and I just took the best thing smoking because I'm not going to play with these folks. You know what I'm saying?
So how much time did they end up sentencing you for?
So I got 2.5 years. Well, I got 10 years out of Pulaski.
Okay.
And then they transferred to Lonoke County.
Okay.
And they go to Lonoke County. They give me 5 years, rank concurrent with the time I was already doing.
Okay.
So first time I go to prison, I'm there. I get to Bricky's, the brick house. And I get this time card. I look on this time card. It just has Pulaski County charges on it. It doesn't have anything from Lonoke. So I thought, well, I know I was there. I got sentenced. So it's my first time down. I didn't know any better. And anyway, I did my 2.5 years on that 10. And I go up for parole, made it first time up, first time down. And my jacket went up. When I even had violent charges, which was kind of weird. But anyway, made it. I'm on the ADC roster, paroling out of ADC. Me and this other guy was leaving that day. Some just didn't feel right with me, and everyone's like, man, quit playing, bro. You're going home today. You're going home today. So we go to chow call. They call
Now
us.
you at this point, you done gave all your stuff away,
Yeah,
your
bro.
food, your shoes, your radio,
everything's gone. I'm handing
because
things
you're
out.
on the transfer list to go home.
Yep.
And you've already made parole, so of course you give everything away.
Yeah, lay-in roster. I done. It says parole
yeah,
out.
it's a wrap. You're gone.
I'm gone. So chow call came, and we go to chow hall. And while we're in chow hall, they called this guy out of the line.
The other guy that's
going home that day, and I'm like, "What about me?" And they were like, "We'll get back to you in a minute." So I'm in the chow hall, and controlled movement in ADC always. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not even hungry, man. I'm so nervous right now. I don't know what's going on. I didn't sneak out of the chow hall and jump into the IPO's office. And while I'm in the IPO's office, he said, Lono called. They said they got some pending charges on you. We're trying to work it out. And I was just devastated because I thought that all my time was done. I was going to come out, new slate, clean, change my life, do what I need to do. And I'm told to get back to the barracks. So came back with me. So 2 or 3 hours later, he was literally like waiting on the H test results. They called me back down there, and they was like, "Oh, Lono called you. They said they've already prosecuted you on these charges. It's just never turned your commitment papers in." So he looked at me and says, "You're not going home today. You got to go back up in front of the pro board." And I was just drunk. I mean, drunk.
Drove.
So I get back to the barracks.
It's like they done hit you in the head with a bat.
Bro,
you can't even think. You're just in pure disbelief at
now
this
I'm
point.
back here fiending for some of my stuff back, man.
And you gave it all away.
Gave it all away. Everything must go. You know what I'm saying? Everything out. So
yeah. Did anybody give your stuff back?
They gave me most of my stuff back. Yeah.
Like your shoes.
Yeah.
Did you give your shoes, radio,
everything? Yeah. I got them back. I was in the 1B barracks, so it was kind of good
trustee,
on that. Yeah. So OJTs came to prison.
Hey, that's crazy. So you were a trustee. You're working outside the gate.
I was a 1B. I worked farm crew.
Yeah, and you don't even know about these other charges.
Mm-mm. Well, I knew I didn't have any more charges. I just never, Lonoc never turned that papers into ADC for the 2.5 years I've been down in prison. You know what I'm saying? So I get down there. Anyway, long story short, I get down there, and they did this big bust. OJTs busted the whole unit, found pounds and pounds of tobacco, marijuana, tattoo motors, things of that nature. And they take everything out there, and a guy working horse barn runs across this tobacco out there in this field.
Yeah.
And, they just burn it out there in the cache. Well, they poked holes in all this packs at top, and they pour hydraulic fluid all over it. Well, a lot of it didn't burn. So everything, in the penitentiary, everybody got to hustle.
Yeah.
So he was grabbing this tobacco, and he's bringing it straight back in and giving it to the barracks porters. And, they're going to do their job, taking it down the road, down to prison.
Spreading it out. Shipping the tobacco down the hallway through the porters.
Well, the problem is,
now it's hydraulic fluid.
It's soaked in
tobacco.
hydraulic fluid, and I'm seeing people in the barracks smoking it. It's sizzling at
flaming up like they're on Sherm, dog.
It's sizzling with known cancer agent state of California. And so anyway, naturally it gets people start complaining.
Yeah.
The tobacco ain't cheap down there. So anyway, this guy comes to me and he's like, man, I've been dipping this tobacco in water. I'm like, bro, you can't dip tobacco in water. I mean, it's going to lose everything with it. You know what I'm saying? I said, here's my dope cook mine coming out. Bring it to me at the farm crew. I'm going to make like I'm making metal, bro. I'm going to put it in a vice newspaper, and I'm going to try to squeeze that stuff out. So he brings me this big old bag of tobacco. I'm out the farm crew, and I'm vicing it out, changing newspapers, doing it again.
So is it coming out?
It started coming back to its natural color, but you're never going to get rid of all of it, right? So I gave it to dude. Well, this black guy in the barracks, this is right after I got devastating news that I'm not going home, right?
Yeah.
He gets talked crazy to by another guy in the barracks the night before. This guy been on a rape charge, been down about 18 years, barracks porter. So I come in the barracks one day, and I'm talking to my guys, and he come in. He just felt like he needed to come in my conversation and say something smart to me. I was like, say, man, I wasn't even talking to you, bro. I'm talking to these dudes over here. You know what I'm saying? So I guess in his mind, he was like, I'm not fixing to get talked to by no white boy in a prison.
Yeah.
And
it was okay for the other race to do it.
But since he got punked out the night before, he wasn't just going to be making a
a habit
habit
of
of this. You know what I'm saying?
I ain't gonna make no habit of getting
Yeah.
treated any kind of way in
Right.
this penitentiary.
But I just said, hey, bro, I wasn't even talking to you. This is none of your business. I'm talking to my guys over here. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, here he comes. He's walking up to me at the brick house. I'm at 20 barracks. Matter of fact, Miss Esther was on our barracks. And anyway, he comes up to me and says, I don't think you're hitting a gorilla. I don't think you're hitting a gorilla. He said that 3 times, grabs my shirt, bro, and I busted him 3 times. I went defense mode. I'm blocking punches. They separated us before we get busted. All right, now that happened. Now, like anybody, you do not go to sleep with someone mad at you in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
It's a
bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea. So anyway, I wait till everything to calm down. I went up there and shook his hand. I said, hey, man, we good? And he smiled at me and said, man, I didn't think he was going to hit no gorilla. I said, well, now we know we will, but I just want to make sure we're good. He said, yeah. So he was one of the guys that got that tobacco. He literally went in there and took it to the Major Andrews, dropped it on his desk, and said, this is where I got it from. Bam, 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 bam. Unbeknownst to me, I'm out in the middle of Brick's house out there plowing fields out in the garden miles away from the prison, and I see
Major's truck.
It was Lieutenant Sweeney and another hose fire rider.
Sweeney's still there, man?
Sweeney, yeah. So he comes over there and he says, hey, Springer, come off that truck, let's catch these cuffs. I was like, what'd I do, man?
Yeah, God, I hate that term. So, catch the cuffs.
I'm in the back of this truck, I'm rolling. They got me.
And they hitting curves, too. You in the back of the truck,
beat up in the back of this truck, riding miles back, man. It's crazy.
And they're mad at you because you worked for them and you done made them look like an ass. Yeah.
So I pull up there and I get in front of Major Andrews. Major Andrews says, Springer, tell me about this tobacco. Major, I don't know nothing. He said, lock his ass up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm under investigation now, right? So I'm in the hole at the brick house, first time down. I got the full experience my first time down. Let's just say it like that.
Yeah, you went through all the stages.
All of it. So I'm in there. I ended up getting 45 days in the hole. While I'm in the hole, a day before Christmas Eve, I get a new time card under the door. I pull it up. I see Lone Oak on there now, my time card. But now it says I have another 2.5 years to pull.
Because you're class 4.
Well, not that. What it was is.
Oh, they ran it concurrent. Oh, the dirty son of a biscuit.
But Lone Oak County was on the 70, which was the controlling sentence. Oh, so now that I've already served that first 2.5 from the 10 years, now I'm having to do the other 70% out of 5 years. So now I'm doing a consecutive sentence instead of a concurrent sentence. So, bro, I was drunk. I'm in the hole.
So how long did you have to pull on the Lone Oak, which was a 70%er?
I did 4.5 years. Well,
total altogether.
That was the time when they said that there's if you're on 70%, you're class 1,
class
goes to 50. You know what I'm saying? Went to 50%.
Yeah. So for the listeners, if y'all don't understand what the class Y is, in Arkansas, you can get a class B, C, or D felony. D being the lightest felony. It's next to nothing. Class C carries 2 to 10, which is like your theft by receivings, things like that. Then your class B is your burglaries and things like that, car theft. They carry, 10 to 20 to 40. And then the class Y carries 10, 40 to life, which is almost the worst sentence you can get. It is the worst sentence. So there's a class A felony in front of the Y that carries a 50%. That's like your trafficking and stuff like that. Class Y is murder, rape. Back then, dope cooking. Mm-hmm. Now, here's something. I did a presentation, Michael, last year at the Me Over Meth conference on the history of meth use in Arkansas. And so I'm in the joint from 95 till 2015. I'm in and out, right? So I've seen when the first time I went to prison, there were 6 white guys in the barracks. 2 of them were watered down, getting treated any way they wanted to. I was suspect of 2. And then there was me and another guy from North Little Rock I knew were straight, Now that's in 1995 out of 80 people. Mm-hmm. By the time I quit doing time, there's 40% white in one barracks, right? Like that's crazy to see that much of a ratio, race influx. Change. And it was because of the 70% law. See, the 70% drug law that the governor put on us back then, which was Mike Huckabee, and sadly Sarah's in the office now, so she's pretty tough on crime too. The war on drugs ended up being a war on people. So here's what I say of that. The 70% law was the birth of white supremacy gangs in Arkansas prisons.
Absolutely.
See what I mean?
Mhm.
Because there was not that many white people in the
In
prison
prison.
system to do that time. But all of a sudden, if you get caught with a bottle of lye like you did and a coffee filter, now that's a 70% charge for attempted manufacturing of meth or manufacturing of meth. So you're getting a 10-year sentence, but instead of doing 2 months on a year, you're doing 7.5 years
Mm, 10.
on a 10-year
Yeah.
sentence. So white guys are catching time because everybody was cooking dope
Mhm.
and nobody was going home. And so here's how that affected the free society. Everything that's in the prison system eventually bleeds back out to the free community. So the gangs came back out.
Mhm.
And just two or 3 years ago, you had the To the Dirt indictment, which was the NAE,
Mhm.
New Aryan Empire indictment, where 50 people in this county and the next county were arrested for kidnapping, maiming, torturing, drug traps, real criminal
Which
organizational stuff
started from prison.
that started in prison.
Yep.
And if they would not have created that intense drug law, there would have never been born a white supremacy gang in Arkansas that would have been out here 10 years later kidnapping and torturing people
And I truly feel bad for the guys that's down there under that old 70% law, because there's folks down there doing 40, 50 years
on a
on a
70%
70%
for a coffee filter
for
and a
something
gas
less than
bottle.
what I got
Yeah,
caught with. You know what I'm saying? It was terrible.
crazy.
But man, really, all this stemmed from my combat experience, man. What happened to me in combat was just, it was just unreal.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, man. I, when I got kicked out of my dad's house about 16, there was not a, they put me in foster care, and there was literally no one in the state of Arkansas that would take a 16-year-old in the system, even
Yeah.
though they don't know I come from a middle class family. All they see is 16-year-old in the system. Nobody would take me. No one would touch me. So they kept putting me in these boys' homes all over the place, and I would run from them. Finally,
Yeah.
the judge got tired, and the guy got police escorted all the way out to Russellville. I finally went to court one day, and they asked me, "How would you mind staying with a black family?" And I said, "I'm down. Let's do it. I do
Yeah.
not want to go back to this place." You know what I'm saying? That was one of the best things that's ever happened out of my life.
Taught you how to be a boy.
Bro, not that, it's just really broadened my horizons on life in general and
Culture.
cultures and
Yeah.
everything like that. And they never, treated me like I was anything different. I was the only white kid in the house, man. And I always felt love. You probably know who the foster dad was. You ever heard of Maxie Foote, the piss sergeant from Wrightsville?
Yeah. Sergeant Foots. Yeah.
That was my foster dad.
Shut up.
Yeah. He's a major now, by the way.
Yeah. Listen, I was so scared to see Foots because I was always high and he would talk with the lips. So he would be trying to say, "Put your dick in this cup,
Yep.
McGill. Let me piss you." And he said, "Come here, McGill. Put your dick in the tub. Put your dick in the tub." And I'd be like, "Man, Foots." He said, "No, I know you've been getting high, McGill. You're not finna play that tit on me today."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh my gosh, that was your foster
that was my
dad.
foster dad. So I'm living there, and he always said, "Don't you go down to prison? I ain't gonna fucking help you go down to prison down there."
So he really was a good dude, man.
Yeah, he's straight up good dude, 100%.
But when you're doing time and he's the authoritative figure that can really hold your feet to the fire, you're not thinking. You're only thinking about what you want. How's this? You know what I mean? You're always on some slick stuff, not no positive humanity thing.
Right.
So that's cool for me to see the other side of Foots, man.
Yeah,
because I was scared of him. I knew he put me in the hole.
A lot of people say the same thing like that. Every time I tell somebody that, they're like, "What? You Foots?"
That's crazy.
But so anyway, I was saying all that to say this. While I was there, this woman named Edith, and that was, I guess, the foster mom's aunt, Margie's aunt. She kept staring at me different. I thought, well, it's because I'm a white boy, so it's probably a little different. Well, the next day she comes over and she hands me this picture, and it's me and my little brother sitting in her lap when I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Nice.
So it's crazy how all this came together, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm 19 years old now. I'm with my baby mama, Alicia, my first wife, and I'm at a time in my life where I was not happy with the direction I was going. I was just walking in place, wasn't doing nothing. I had experimented with meth at this time, but it was more like a recreational, every once in a while on the weekend type deal. And then anyway, when September 11th happened, 2001,
Yeah.
Well, I said,
There's two dates, not to interrupt you. There's two dates my generation will always remember where they were at.
mm-hmm.
The day 9/11 happened and the day Tupac got shot.
That's it. Yeah, 1996
Yeah.
September. Uh, so when I seen that second plane hit that tower, there was just no ifs, ands, or buts of what I was going to do with my life. I was going to be a soldier. I was going to defend my country, and I was more sure of that than anything in my life. So with the childhood I had of blocking things out, abuse, sexual molestations, you know, neglect, kind of in a physical, emotional way, you tend to block things out, or I had problem processing things. I had a problem with fear. I was raised in fear. So when I decided to join the army, I thought, this is it. Uncle Sam is going to help me out. Uncle Sam's going to fix all my problems. And it was more or less like putting a band-aid on a puncture wound in the end. But I joined the military. First time in my life ever completed something at Fort Benning, Georgia, boot camp, went to infantry, came home not even with a year later, I was activated to go to Iraq. Now I had a son born who is staying at your house right now, thank God, who was born a month before I left Iraq. And so when I get to Iraq, um, my wife went on a little tour of duty herself, spent all my money, and uh, got rid of all my things. And typical Jody out there, do what you do. Um, got back and she abandoned my child pretty much. Well, this is while I'm in Iraq. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was put on my battalion commander's personal security team in Iraq, pretty much like his bodyguard. And we're doing convoys. We take with him everywhere. We pull security for him wherever he's in these meetings, and it was a pretty straight gig. But I was assigned to a turret gunner position. You know what the turret gunner position is?
No.
It's a literally a strap. Then you man the machine gun on top of the Humvee. You know what I'm talking about? So that's the turret gunner position.
Yeah.
One of the most dangerous positions over there because the IEDs were just
Flying everywhere. Yeah.
So I complained and I complained and I complained because I didn't want to be up here in this turret. I wanted to be dismount. I wanted to be where the action was. And so we had a new guy that was assigned to our fire team, and he volunteered to take my spot. He knew how much I wanted to be dismount. So now I'm like, man, everything's great now. I'm dismount. I'm able to get out in the streets when we're walking through these crowds. And I feel good about it. So Saturday, April 24th, 2004, we had just left Taji, which was Camp Cook, and they had dropped in 16 more rounds and it killed 3 of our soldiers. One was literally reading the Bible in a lawn chair, and a mortar round dropped on top of him. So it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So by the time I get the word back at our fob gunslinger, that's when reality starts sinking in. So the next morning, we ain't been in country not even a month, bro. You know what I mean? So the next morning, we go on a patrol, and we got to do what they call right seat rides, which is the people we were replacing. They ride with us. They show us all the routes. So literally, we were just like glorified cops with the different rules of engagement, and we patrolled our zone all day long, 3 shifts a day, and that's pretty much what we did on that. So the next day on a Sunday morning, believe it or not, we're driving through Baghdad and we're lost. And we do not know where we're going. They had everything set up like a maze. There was concrete, literally a maze. We drove one way, wrong ways. I mean, we pretty much owned that country while we was there. But we were lost, and we drove past this kill zone 3 times. And on the third time we passed it, they hit us with an IED. And I'm telling you right now, it was the hugest, biggest explosion I'd ever seen in my life. It shot up maybe 100 feet in the air. And I was driving on this day, and I was in the Humvee in front of me. And when it hit, it picked my Hummer up 3 or 4 feet off the ground. I was one behind it. So it was a huge explosion. It was a 155 round packed with steel ball bearings. So when it blew up and out. And we pull over to the side, bro. I was scared to death. So what we was trained to do when we first went over, this is 04, man. It was the Wild Wild West. We got activated 03. It was jumping in 04. That we're taught as soon as I blast gets hit on the vehicle, the next one behind it blows through the kill zone. You jump out of the Humvee and you start looking for that trigger man.
Yeah.
Well, we found out quick that catching a trigger man is like catching a crackhead. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm out there. I'm scared to death, man. I probably said a million cuss words, just scared to death. I'm on the 4-lane highway. This explosion went off. I don't know anybody's okay. I assumed we're all okay because we drove through it. Everybody drove through. So I pull out and I'm sitting here and I'm on the knee with my M4 and I'm looking and I'm just freaked out. And as I look over here to the right, I'm seeing this chain link fence. They're swaying this fence down, try to knock this fence down. There's 20 of them, then becomes 30 of them, and they're swaying this fence down. I'm doing the math in my head. We got 4 Humvees. We got 5 people to a Hummer. One's been hit. So I'm like, this is about to get crazy. Uh, I see this guy out in this field, man. He's got one of them Grim Reaper blades. And he's just cutting this grass. That's the mentality of these folks over there. It's a completely different world over there. And it took me a lot to understand that concept that this is everyday world for them. But he's out there chopping his grass, man, like everything was fine. So in my mind, I'm thinking, this has to be the trigger guy. There's no ifs, ands, but this bomb just went off. He's acting normal. So I'm on my knee. I point my M4 at him. And right before I get ready to pull the trigger, I got the major come down the line. He says, "Don't you pull that trigger unless you positively identify the trigger man." Well, since I couldn't positively identify him, I put my M4 down. Meanwhile, I'm watching this crowd over here swaying this fence down.
So you almost shot this
I
guy
almost shot this
for
guy.
nothing.
Well, in my mind, I mean, just think about it. I come from a small town, Arkansas. This is not how we live. This is not the bubble we live in. We're used to
Yeah,
this.
but you was
I
for
was,
real fixing to peck
I was
him
for real
off.
thinking drop him off right there. And till the major came down and told me no. And then he comes back down the line again and he says, "We already have 1 KIA. Keep your eyes open." And when he told me that, bro, it was like my heart just sank because we were a tight squad. Who just died? I didn't know what was going on. And so I'm sitting there, I'm pulling security. I'm watching this fence. I'm watching everybody around us. And they call for a CLS, which is a combat lifesaver. So I was elected to be a combat lifesaver for my fire squad, my fire team,
Mhm.
which basically means I'm not a medic, but I prepare you to see a medic because the combat medics are stretched so thin over there. They had designated 1 per fire
Yeah.
team. So they called for a CLS. I jump in the Humvee. I pull up on the scene. I grab my CLS bag. I jump out, and it was just crazy. The Humvee had been hit with so many steel ball bearings, bro. It looked like Swiss cheese. Everything was exploded on. And this is one of those new up armored Hummers, man. So I jump out. I come up to this guy who's a sergeant who was driving in the front seat, passenger. He had his arm in the window like this. Ball bearing came through, hit his hand. Everything was hanging down here. Calm as day, came up to me and said, "Wrap it." And I was like, oh my God, this is a lot to take in, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm wrapping this guy's arm up, right? We set him on the curb. I go back in. I'm hearing ungodly screaming. And our driver that was in that vehicle had took shrapnel. It came in, hit metal, caused more shrapnel, and it went right up under his vest and filleted his back wide open. I mean, so he wouldn't let us take his vest off because it took this action. So we literally had to cut the dude's vest, which is Kevlar. It was no easy task. We split it open. We patched his wound up like that. Got
Yeah.
him out, set him on the curb. I go back in the Humvee. There's a guy on the back passenger side. His window was up. I don't think it saved his life.
So how often are you seeing stuff like this in Iraq?
Man, it would go in spurts. You know what I'm saying? They would hit us hard and heavy, and then, we take it to them, and then they would call a ceasefire, and really all they're doing is regrouping.
And so the things that you experienced over there is what led to the consistent drug use that
Absolutely.
so you survived the war and came home and got conquered by addiction.
Well, this guy, the last guy I pulled out was Kenneth Melton. He's the one who volunteered to take my spot in Iraq, and he was killed on that day.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of survivor's guilt on that, and
Yeah, of course.
it was crazy.
You begged and begged to get out of that position. This new guy takes your position
Yep.
and he loses his life.
Loses
So
life.
you're toting those demons with you, man, and you come back, you get trapped in addiction trying to escape that. Not to mention all the other trauma from youth homes and childhood abuse and
Mhm.
sexual stuff and yeah, so but somewhere along the way, you transitioned to this Michael that we see now, and so the listeners may not know this, but, like, you live a life right now that makes recovery look so attractive that even I get jealous, man, like, I mean, you're traveling all you just came back from New York, you've been to London, you've been like, how do you go from survivor's guilt from combat, methamphetamine king cook, prison, and getting stuck in prison to living this life that you're living today.
Well, I'll be straight up with you, man. The last time I got busted with 197 grams of meth in Cabot. And that last time I went to prison, while I was sitting in prison, I'm hearing these things from the streets by Lone Oak Transport that comes down there. I was good friends with them. They were jailers, and I moved to transport.
Yeah.
I'm working Horse Barn. I'm down there at the gate.
Yeah, so you're getting a chance to chop it up with them.
He comes down. He tells me about this PAC program, man. He tells me,
Peers achieving collaborative treatment. I know about the program.
yeah, you know a little bit about it. I'm saying, so he told me about it. He says, man, Springer, when you get involved. My first thought, I was pissed because we came up with this after I got sentenced to prison.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm still happy that
You wouldn't have qualified with
No,
197
no.
grams anyway.
Yeah, they wouldn't have
They wouldn't have let you.
about that. But I'm sitting there. So I said to myself right there, my goal is to get out and be a part of this. Because I am a true believer of anybody who has been in the trenches in addiction. On the other side of that was going to be filled with compassion and empathy for those in a struggle.
Yeah.
I believe that 100%. So I knew that was my goal, but I had no idea what that looked like, what was going to happen. I'm hearing in there, Jimmy McGill's out here doing the thing out there. I'm like, Jimmy?
Yeah.
The Jimmy McGill out here doing this?
Yeah.
Because I'm getting stuff in prison. I'm hearing all this, but I was like, I couldn't imagine it. I could never imagine that. So I went from when I was a kid, my mom telling me, I don't want to be hanging around people like you because you were the bad kids.
Yeah.
To now you're out here making waves in a positive way. It was hard for me to understand or fathom. So I'm in prison, and that was my goal when I first started getting out. And, it was no easy task for me to get out, man. So when I got out, I had a lot to prove. Matter of fact, the detective that busted me reached out to me, and he said to me when I got out, he said, hey, man, word on the street is you're still selling dope. And I said, man, I will tell you, I'll back that up. When I was in that county jail, bro, that last time I got busted,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care about me, man. I didn't care where I lived or died or nothing. Okay. But when I got busted last time and the girl I was with, they took her kid. That was the first time in my life I was able to see how my actions were affecting people around me.
Yeah.
And that was my eye opener. So I'm sitting here in this county jail at Lone Oak, and I'm saying to myself, what the real eye opener for me was this dude volunteered and took my spot and was killed. I'm not doing this guy any justice by sitting here going to jail, wasting my life being a junkie, and that was a sobering experience for me. I went to Iraq and I fought for people's freedom who did not like me, who did not know me, did not want me there. And I come home and I have my own dumb self stripped that very freedom away. Was a very sobering experience for me.
Wow. So, what just hit me was hearing you say everything you said, but the power punch for me is you've put your life on the line. You're over there fighting for other people who have no idea about you, but you came back and wouldn't fight for yourself.
Right. The state of Arkansas was not ready for the influx of soldiers coming back with a multitude of problems they had from the combat. They were not ready.
Yeah.
So I fell through the cracks. I never got any
Arkansas
help.
was not ready for a lot of stuff, man.
Was not ready. The VA was not an option for me. I had none of that. So I self-medicated. That's what it transpired to. And once that monkey got on my back, bro, it was that silverback gorilla. It was over with.
Yeah.
I've been riding it, So that last time I'm sitting in county jail, I hit my knees in that jail and I said, God, I don't know. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot do this by myself. However you can use me, please use me.
Yeah.
But I knew it took a lot of work to do it still. So I went to prison, did my time, got out. I get a call from David Dillon,
Narcotics officer,
one who busted me. He reaches out to me. He says, hey, man, word on the street is you're selling dope. I said, David, you better tell them to update their snitch list because I've been out the game for a minute. I ain't doing nothing. So I knew this was my problem. I can get clean, but anytime any triggers come up as anniversary dates or anything like that came up that I had to run and go get high with, this was my problem.
You couldn't stay clean.
Couldn't stay clean, right.
Getting clean was easy. Staying clean was hard.
Yes. So when I did my time in prison, got out of prison, I knew then this time was different. I had to go do some things. And this is how God opens doors for me straight up. I went straight into the VA and left one institution for another. And I did an 8.5 week inpatient PTSD treatment there. And this time was the first time then I got fully transparent. I've been in firefights in Iraq. I've seen people killed in Iraq. And for me, my pride when I first came back home from it, gotten involved with the VA, was I couldn't stand here and talk to another grown man who's never been to combat, who's never even been in the service, and complain about something I voluntarily signed up for. It was
Yeah.
out in my blood.
PTSD is so real too. My wife just got diagnosed with severe PTSD.
Man, it's yeah, I refused to believe for the longest time that that was it. I thought that was a cop out. But you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We're looking at let's look
Yeah,
at the
you're
facts.
living in a flashback.
I've never been in any trouble my day in my life, right? I come back from Iraq. I've got 26 felonies now, if you want to look at it, the whole
Yeah.
totality of it. But it was like I came home from Iraq and I wanted to go back to the person when I'm trying to fix this on my own because I think I got this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to go back to the person I was before I went to Iraq, working every day, coming home to one woman, paying my bills on time, and I could never get back to that person. The more and more I tried to get back to that person, the further lost I got. And it came to the conclusion that I'm chasing a ghost. That person's never going to be there.
Yeah.
My dad told me before I went to war, he said, son, you're going to go to combat. You're going to come back. You're going to think everybody's changed. But in
Yeah.
reality, it's going to be you that's changed. And it never really sank in until I got home to see what he was talking.
Yeah.
So I'm in county jail. I made that prayer. David Dillon calls me, tells me, you're selling dope. I go to the VA. I get full transparent. I lay it on the line. I'm crying like a 5-year-old kid, bro. And it was the greatest relief I had in my life. There was a time in my life, Jimmy, if I even would even think about the story I just told you about my buddy who volunteered and died, there was no way I could think. I had to go get high. I mean, I just couldn't deal with that, man.
Yeah.
It was overbearing.
Yeah.
When I went to the VA, I got transparent. I got serious with this, and I laid it all out there. I had to go to this deal where that scenario I was telling you about. I talked to like a 24, 25-year-old kid who's never served in the military, never been to combat, and I had to tell him the whole story from phase one to all the way out, and I had to say it over and over and over every day. I had to record it back to my room and listen to it all day long. And I was like, it had me pissed. Like, why am I having to do this? You know what I'm saying? Why am I having to relive this? Think about this all the time, right? But the theory is, it's like when we're all little kids and we watch a scary movie and we're scared to death of it. The more times we watch it, we're not scared of it no more.
Yeah.
That was powerful. That was a game changer for me. So today, I'm able to tell my story and tell his at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what was the greatest thing for me on that one.
So how do you maintain your recovery? Like 12-step, church, exercise? Like what's your pathway to recovery?
So I love all pathways. I've done NA, I've done AA, I've done CR. But the only thing I can stop sticking needle in my neck 5 or 6 times a day was God, straight
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And
Your
yeah,
faith.
my
Okay.
faith is what keeps me there.
Now you ended up going back to Lonoke County Jail and working there,
Mhm.
right? Volunteering there in the PACT project that you were just talking about. How did that feel?
Well, it was no easy task getting there.
Yeah.
Um, I was at the VA. I got Brett Franks called me. Says, "Hey, will you come tell your story at the PAC program?" So I go up there to tell my story, and David Dillon and Anthony Counts were there, the two detectives that busted me. They took a picture with me and put it on the website on Fort
Mm.
Lonoke. Well, the sheriff got pissed because he was told
That you were
that
still
I'm
in the
still
game.
selling game, selling dope. He did not want me up at that sheriff's office. I can understand that. Statistically speaking, I get out and I go back to do the same thing. So anyway, I won't get into that. It's a whole nother story I
Yeah.
want to talk about. But I got We Are 22, man. That was my deal. Michael Brooks, I think really everything was a big portion of where I'm at today, but that was a big start for me right there because I'm 100% service connected from Iraq. I'm unemployable, so that means I'm sitting at the house. We all know that idle time's the devil's playground, and it was never good for me to sit around like that.
Yeah.
So, Michael Brooks, they came at me wanting me to be a suicide responder for We Are the 22. And like I said, anybody's been through addiction and hard times like this, you're going to be filled with that compassion and empathy. And man, I took to it, and anything I believe in, I'm going hard in. And I did like 16 responses that first year, and they made me responder of the month. And it's John Staley's office.
Saying, hey, come see me.
He's like, "Hey, let's have lunch." And I was like, "All
The
right."
sheriff want lunch
Yeah.
with you.
He says, "How fast can you get here?" I said, "Well, as fast as the law allows, I'll be there." You know what I'm saying? So I get in a car, I go up there. I'm thinking he's wanting to talk about We Are 22. We work with law enforcement, da da da. So I get there and I'm getting ready to do a presentation. And he's like, I don't want to hear none of that, Springer. He says, you were one of the biggest meth dealers in Lono County. They're going to listen to you before they listen to me. I want you to come help me run this PAC program. And I
Nice.
said, that's God right there all day long, bro.
Yeah.
That's God.
That's nice. That'll be a good clip right there. That's good.
Yeah. So
So now an interesting fact is you were talking about narcotics officer David Dillon arresting you. Now he was also just in your wedding, right?
he was my best man at my wedding. Yeah.
So the narcotics agent that arrested you ended up being one of your best men.
Yep. That's crazy how it works, huh?
That's full redemption. It's prison to purpose.
That's it.
That's what this show's about. It's about giving a voice to the other side, right? People, the stigma surrounding drug addiction in prison, and all they see when they look at us is what they think, but they don't see, the survivor guilt that you carried from Iraq. They don't see the abandonment that you experienced as a kid in the foster system. They don't see, the prisons. They don't see everything that you went through that led up to the underlying issues that caused you contributed greatly to your poor decision making, right? Like your decisions are your responsibility. I get that. But there were a lot of factors that contributed to you not being able to make a good decision.
Right.
And so that's what this show's for, to shift the perception and reshape the narrative. And there's a lot of cool stuff. So you're a peer recovery specialist too, right?
Mm-hmm. They now believe that recovery is possible. There's been people who said this they'll never change, and it's now changing their minds. The judge who sentenced me last to prison, okay, asked me to come be the guest speaker at his first drug court graduation.
Love it.
I mean, we got cell phone numbers. We're talking.
Yeah,
I'm literally sitting at the table with the same prosecutors who sentenced me to prison, advocating for people like us behind me.
that's good, man.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's how you use your past to find a purpose and make sure it wasn't wasted. It means something. So now you're married too now,
Yeah.
right? Got a good wife, Kim. You're a homeowner. And you guys travel a lot. What's up with that? Like every time I see you on Facebook, like you're in a different country or state.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
dude's a movie star.
these are the year. These are all the things addiction stole.
Yeah.
I'm scuba diving. I've been skydiving. As soon as I got off parole, I went to the Bahamas. My wife works. We went to London, and I entered.
Now what does Kim do other than just be so absolutely stunning that she never needs makeup? I mean, that's a good treat for you,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Awesome, you got.
She's a systems analyst. She's a registered nurse by trade, but she's a systems analyst for Children's Hospital. She, develops programs and softwares for nurse flows and things
That's
like that.
awesome, man.
So she works for a company called Epic, and
Yeah, I'm familiar with Epic.
yeah, so that's what she does. But she's great. She's amazing.
She supports you in everything.
100%. And I've never been with anybody. She's never done drugs. She's never done anything. You know what I'm saying? So I never would have been able to experience these things if I never would have stuck to my promise to God by I'm staying clean.
Now, how long have you been clean and sober?
Going on 6 years.
That's awesome, man.
July will be 6 years.
Yeah, February 27th will be 9 for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, man, it's just, bro. And when I think back to when I was in that jail for that last time at Lono County, it's kind of like a story like you got, but I mean, you were getting high there. I wasn't, but
I did get high there.
When I was sitting there, man, I would pray and envision and dream what it would be like if I would just stay clean.
Yeah.
And for me to be there.
Yeah. We're getting to live everything that we fantasized about in the streets.
And dude, that's
like,
awesome.
Like it's nuts when you're on the radio and you're on the TV and you're getting to fly all over the country. Like that's the dreams that we were fantasizing about, pretending and trying to be dope boys.
Mm-hmm.
And now, by doing the exact opposite of what the streets demanded of us and following God, we're getting to live out the things we wanted most.
Right.
We come at from such a broken perspective, and the recovery workforce is so important. The work you do, the suicide responses, the peer work at the jail, like all that was because you had to go through all those fires to become this fireproof version of yourself that you are today.
I truly believe that, God didn't want us living like that. God didn't want to see us in prison. God didn't want to see us doing the things we was doing. I mean, but I do believe with free will and free choice, we do that. But God can turn a bad situation into a good one. And I believe that I had to go through all that to this chapter of my life today. It was setting me up for that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. So,
Yeah. Well, man, I wanna thank you for coming on the show. We're pushing about an hour tops right now. So, but before we close, Mike, I want to give you a chance to say anything that you want to say to the viewers or the listeners, and you can just look in that camera and say whatever's on your heart, man.
just don't give up. It gets easier. I say this all the time. People with wounds listen to people with scars. If you're at that point in your life right now, it's very important for us to attach ourselves to those with scars. So when God in recovery or however you do it, whatever pathway it is, this is about going back in and changing this generation because we're all dying out there today.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure, man. Thank you for being an authentic peer worker and just being the example of living it the way you talk it and walking it the way you talk it. And so before we close, got to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Safe Haven Women's Ministry for allowing us the studio, Next Step Recovery Housing for giving us a platform. Ty King, my executive producer for this podcast. If you are trying to get involved with social media, if you need a podcast producer, if you need social media website design and you don't call Ty King, I have no idea what you're doing. Like you may need a sponsor if you don't have a Ty in your life, man. And you can email him at Ty King, that's King at AmericanBusinessEngine.com. Also want to give a huge shout out to John Shinhauser. And I've actually got a phone number here for him just for you guys. And he will help you get the treatment you need no matter what state you're in. He's been clean for 42 years. He's spoke in all 50 states at jails. He's amazing. His number is 804-241-9424. Reach out to that man if you need help. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. Follow us on all platforms, YouTube, Insta, Facebook, you name it, we're there. You can listen on iTunes, Spotify, and any other streaming platforms. We love you guys, and we'll see you soon.
You've been listening to From Prison to Purpose with Jimmy McGill. Please subscribe on any of the major podcasting platforms and on YouTube at Prison to Purpose. This podcast is produced by Ty King with American Business Engine and executive producer Jimmy McGill. For more information, visit us at jimmymcgill.org.